This episode may include personal reflections on trauma, including experiences of sexual harm, family dysfunction, and emotional abandonment. There are no graphic details, but the themes may still feel activating or tender. Please listen in a way that feels safe for your body and your story. You can pause, step away, or return later. Your well-being comes first. Child and Woman and the creative reflections that follow in this episode and subsequent episodes are artistic expressions, not clinical interpretations. Nothing in this series is meant to diagnose, treat, or offer therapeutic instruction. If anything in these conversations touches a tender part of your story, please consider connecting with a qualified mental health professional, a trusted support person, or a trauma-informed practitioner. Your well-being matters, and you don't have to navigate any of this alone. Hello and welcome to the Lori Clarke Show. I'm your host, Lori Clarke, and this is the Shame Out Loud series, a space inside of the Lori Clarke Show where we talk about shame and we say it out loud. This is part 3, episode 97 of the Shame Out Loud series. What happens when the parts of you that once kept you safe start to feel like the very things that keep you stuck? In this round table of Shame Out Loud Part 3, myself and my co-host Tammy Valicenti and our guest Karina Gosh name something many people sense but rarely say plainly. When life is chaotic enough, we often split from ourselves. At the center of this episode is a shared metaphor, the forest. It holds the pieces we hid to survive, the selves we scattered and the selves we are trying to call home. Here is an excerpt from the reading to remind you of the forest. There is a girl and there is a moment that splits her world in two. One part of her stands in the light trying to understand what happened. Another part steps toward the dark because the truth feels unbearable. Between them is a trembling threshold, like a witness forming in real time. The piece places this personal moment inside something bigger. Generations of women and men carried secrecy with stories that weren't believed. It names how violation can arrive swiftly and without warning, crossing a sacred boundary. It also names that this harm isn't limited by gender or age. Women and men, young and grown, you, me, us, we, all with a story. Then the writing narrows into the bathroom scene. The girl is crying, trying to catch her breath. She pinches her own skin and feels nothing. Her body has gone numb. She strains to hear her heart beat, but all she can hear is ringing. An endless hum that drowns out everything else. Every muscle tightens as if gripping the memory could keep it from destroying her. Dissociation arrives as distance, a quiet slipping away. In the mirror, there are two versions of her at once. The girl at the sink and the girl in the glass. Water rushes from the faucet, loud and urgent, like it might carry the feelings away. She reaches toward the reflection, but she can't touch her. That's the first moment she understands there is now something thick between her and the beauty of who she was. The girl in the mirror speaks softly as a vow. I'm okay. Her body betrays the lie. She shakes, shivers, tremors rolling through her frame that can't hold what just happened. The witness, the self that stays, knows the truth. The body isn't releasing, it's absorbing. Release will come later, much later. Then the mirror changes again and the reflection turns her head, and behind her a path appears, not smooth, not welcoming, a road of stones leading into dense forest. The girl at the sink panics, pleading across the glass for her not to go. The reflection answers with clarity that sounds like relief. I'd rather go into this darkness than stay in the light of what I just experienced. And just like that, the rules settle into place. One becomes the witness, the other disappears into the forest. Decades pass inside the logic of the piece, even as the scene stays close. The witnesses waited for the girl. When movement finally comes, it's subtle at first, rustling branches, a flicker of color against the blackness of thick forest. The girl emerges, disheveled and thirsty, stumbling out of the dark with her eyes still closed. She has learned to rely on hearing and inner sight after walking for years without light. Welcome to the round table and part 3 of Shame Out Loud. I want to open the space by introducing Tammy Valicenti, my co-host, EMDR specialist and founder of Transform Solution. And this episode, as I mentioned, brings in Karina Gosh for a roundtable conversation that builds on my writing and the imagery. The forest becomes a way to talk about what's hard to explain in every language. It's not just the past. It's the internal place where fear lives, where young parts still wait and where old rule the show. It is also where healing happens. In the forest, you can see the gap between who you were told to be and who you are now trying to become. You can notice what you learned to hide, what you learned to perform, and what you learned in silence just to make it through the day. The point is not to rank experiences or compare wounds. The point is to tell the truth out loud with other people who get it. And I would like to welcome Karina to the round table. She is a mother and intuitive whose life has been shaped by deep healing work and lived experience. Through grief, trauma, Lyme disease, and transformation, she has come to understand healing as a slow, embodied process rooted in compassion and self-trust. Her voice reflects a devotion to honoring the nervous system, inner wisdom, and personal truth as pathways to reclaiming the soul and realigning with who we truly are. Please welcome Karina and my co-host, Tammy Valicenti. Welcome, Karina. Thank you so much for joining Tammy and myself. We are very happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you both.
Well, so you read the writing that I wrote, and you are joining us today to share about your experience. And we're going to talk about our forest and what's in there and who we were told to be and who we want to be now that we've beginning to find ourselves. And so why don't we just dive in and you can begin to share whatever is on your heart.
Yeah. Okay. So I listened to your piece. It was so beautiful and so moving. I love the way that you write. It really spoke to my soul. It was really a soul level of writing. Like there's all kinds of writing out there, but there's, to me, the ones that really touch me is when I feel like a soul is writing to my soul. And that's what I felt when I listened. And I loved that when I received it, it was a video of you reading it. So I just really felt your essence moving through it as you read it out loud. And there was many things that stood out, but one of my favorite parts that really stood out to me and spoke to who I am, being a very intuitive and sensitive and spiritual being, it was this part where you wrote, the young girl taps into her inner knowing, a feeling she has used to ward off offenders and guide her with vibe and nonverbal cues to sense for anyone who might be of harm to her. The young girl feels comfortable not seeing and knows her sight is better in the darkness and in light. In the light, she welcomes the dark once again as her eyes close. And the reason that stood out to me is because I think that it's not commonly spoken about quite yet how enduring trauma, especially as a sensitive being, that it sparks this heightened sense within us, and it sparks these heightened sensitivities in our empathic and intuitive abilities. And that's how we navigate being in chaotic experiences or environments. And as I was reflecting on that, I was also realizing that having those heightened senses come online is actually this gift from the soul helping us navigate through the darkness and showing us, now looking back in retrospect, that we were never alone, that we were being taken care of and supported, and that these heightened senses, these empathic abilities, the ability to close your eyes and still sense and feel and know what's around you is really is this journey of guiding you back home into the light. It's your soul's way of saying, I've got you. And these gifts are going to get you through not only this time of your life, but they're also going to walk you back home to who you are as you allow them in. And that really just touched me. And I loved that.
Oh, I, uh, you said it better than I could write it, really.
That was beautiful, Karina.
Yeah.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Karina, did you ever feel the division of your soul? Was there a time where you felt separate or apart, though?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's also why writing this down is
Mm.
kind of like a channeled reminder to me to say this to you guys too, and to whoever hearing this, that sometimes we think these heightened senses are a detriment, but they're really this gift. And that's helped me come back home to me, because for so long I was not home with myself. I did not have that connection with self. I'll often in this space talk about self, but to me, self and soul are synonymous. They're one. And I didn't have that. And that's why the forest was created. It was from this place of disconnect. It was all these pieces of me scattered throughout the forest that needed to be recognized and reconnected with me. And as each piece kept coming back and I kept finding me, then the self, the soul grew bigger and bigger and more prominent in my everyday life and in my experience. But it was like shattered,
Yeah.
for a long time in my life. And that's why it felt so frightening and unsafe.
Can you speak a little bit more to that brokenness time and how you knew that that had happened, and also more about what your forest is? They're
Yeah.
connected, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in an environment that had very high highs and very low lows. And it was very chaotic and unstable. And I I am naturally my being, my essence is peace, and just like that's who I am, but I could never find that in the environment that I was in. And so what I ended up doing was scrambling to find how I could get pieces of that, how I could get love, which love was peace to me. And what ended up happening was I became a parentified child in the environment that I was in. And that I also leaned on performance. Like, how was I doing in school? Was I getting all the right grades? Was I a good girl? Did I get the accolades? Because in those circumstances, then I would receive the praise and I would receive the love, then I would feel safe for a moment. What ended up happening, though, is that I kept having to compartmentalize myself out, because the real essence of myself was not allowed to be seen or valued or witnessed. When I did hit tipping points, for example, where I felt too much of what was going on in my parents' marriage and the way they behaved, I would, lash, like push it out. I would, what's the word that I'm looking for? It would just project out of me.
Right.
And then I would be shamed for it. I'm too much. I'm a drama queen. What's wrong with me? Anger wasn't allowed. Even though they were allowed to express anger, I was not. I was not allowed to express the emotions that I was absorbing in the world that I was living in. And so that made me put pieces of myself in that forest, like tuck them away, because I couldn't handle them. I couldn't be with them. I couldn't see them because no one was seeing them in me. And that made me disassociate from myself, from my experience. It contributed to the feelings of self-abandonment. Um, and still to this day, that's something that is challenging for me. I'm getting better at, but letting people really see me when I'm having a hard time, when I feel messy, when I feel imperfect. That was something when you wrote shame out loud, I was asking myself, what did I feel ashamed of? What am I still healing? And it's the truth of me, my essence, my emotions. I'm a very emotional being, and learning that that is a strength and not a weakness, and learning that that makes me more relatable, and that makes me gives me the ability to hold a safe space for others to be all of who they are, because that makes me feel safe too. I don't like being in shallow situations where no one is really showing who they are. That makes me unsafe.
Yeah.
So that is how I scattered myself. I think, to answer Tammy's question, that's what happened.
Wow. I think that's really, it's resonating with me. In the last part, Tammy and I shared my forest and was talking all about my forest. And I said to her, and I said to the listeners and viewers, everyone's forest is going to be different. And hearing that you are describing this as you were scattered in different spaces and nooks and crannies of this forest, it helps me. It helps me in a way that I just want to say thank you, because it allows me to see that that's also part of what's happened to me too. And there can be there can be an integration. Um, how how do you feel about safety in your forest?
So it's evolved. So to paint more of a vivid picture, my forest is dark. It's super dark. It only has the moonlight as light, and that is something I had to learn along the way to acquaint myself with that light, because I love the sun. I love the warmth. I missed it there. It's cold, it's dark there, but I had to learn to dance with the moonlight and feel its safety and its femininity. To me, is what the cool pale moonlight represents. And in embracing her, I embraced more of my own feminine energy and my softness. And I was able to become more vulnerable to what was going on in there, and realize that it was going to be okay, even though it sounded awful. Like the sound to me was monsters lurking and screams out in the distance. And so it was traversing along, I think in your piece you talked about like sharp rocks and twigs and branches. I definitely felt that, like barefoot, getting caught up and still embracing it anyways while I'm bleeding and I'm scared. And I think that as I embraced and surrendered to the experience, I was able to also start to look up and realize there wasn't just moonlight. There were stars and they were twinkling, and there was beauty here too. And so as I traversed through it, I would find pieces of myself often in dark holes. They were often in dark holes, like underground, hadn't seen the light of day for who even knows how long. Just like different versions of myself at different ages, cold and dirty and scared. And some were feral, and some were devastated, and some just wanted a hug. And so, being with those parts of myself over and over and over again, particularly in my work with Tammy through EMDR and parts work, what ended up happening was this cottage became it appeared eventually, and it's this sense of home. It's this place that I can go to have respite from this work, because I'm not afraid of it anymore. I know it's part of who I am. And so this cottage, when I go into it, it's like where I go and I drink tea, and it has like all these witchy herbs drying on the walls, and it smells like baked bread, and there's warm candlelight. And so that now exists within this forest. So I know that I can walk through it. I can find these parts and I can bring them home to this cottage, and we can have tea together, and we can be with one another and understand that there is light in the dark, and that we are all of it, and that it's all safe.
Wow. Mine was a garden, and I was doing some work with Susie Nance, who was on my show, and she led me through some like a hypnosis. And at that time I was just feeling very vulnerable, and I knew I had this piece sitting on my desk ready to go somewhere, and I just wasn't sure where it was going to go. And the fear of, when you're in your forest and you're safe, and you believe that you are not enough. You believe that whatever you say will never be enough. This is the thing about what I love so deeply about the spirit work of writing for your soul, is that I had some incredible high highs and low lows in my family. My family of origin was quite dysfunctional, and there was a lot of stuff there. There was parentification. There was all kinds of things, like you say. I resonate very deeply with that. And it's true that we all go somewhere. We all have a space where you can become divided in yourself when you are experiencing something. And Tammy, I know you can touch on this as well, because the three of us are here right now with a varying degree of experiences in our lives, but we all have something in common, and that's the forest. It's there.
Yes, I think no matter who you are or what you've experienced, there is a forest, so to speak. It might not be exactly a forest for you, but it's interesting that we're three random people from three different areas of the country, and all three of us resonate with and know and have been and had parts of us in that forest. So perhaps it's more universal than we think. Um, you mentioned, splitting parts off, Lori, and Karina brilliantly expanded on that a bit. Say, it was some were shattered and scattered about. So sometimes it's not just in quotes, that there's a part in the forest or there's a few parts in the forest, but perhaps there's parts that are shattered and in pieces throughout that forest.
Yeah. And what I find so intriguing here is that we have different experiences, like we said, different parts of the country. Yet
Mhm.
some of these things are the same.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, it's a
so for us to say, oh, well, I had this trauma or I had this trauma, and you identify and put it into a category, and then you
Mhm.
feel safe in that category because we're all in this category here or whatever. Like when we have Dr. Babir on, she's going to share about her experience, and she has an essay experience that will bring even greater depth to this. But again, she would resonate with parts of what you just said, Karina, because it's the same. We are such fragile beings, and this is the heart of us, is to belong. The heart of us is to be held and nurtured and for love. You mentioned, Karina, that you just kind of moved towards trying to find love somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
definitely.
what did you find? Like when you're looking for love, you're looking for belonging, you're looking for, like, what are the things that you're looking for as you've got this family of origin that might not be exactly what you thought you drew up in the locker room?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think many of us have chosen some particular set of actors in our story
No,
to learn through in this school
how
of
did I
life.
get here?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm very sassy with my guides and with my soul, and I'm like, got some questions, you guys. Why do we do this? And then when I get sassy with them, I'm like, you signed up for this. You knew what you were getting.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, I think that I think that we are all, though. I think there's two things that are very universal as humans, and if we could all just breathe and be authentic, we would realize we all have some sort of trauma. Being here, being human. If there's something
Mhm.
we can all relate to, it's
Yeah.
trauma. It comes in all different shades. And, but I don't know, saying that out loud too, I wish that I could kind of, I don't know, lessen the weight of that word. That word has a lot of weight to it. It's very heavy. And it's something, though, that because we all relate, I also think because everything has two sides and we're in this binary universe, it has a gift. It shapes us, it forms us, it gives us the opportunity to evolve. I think that the whole experience here as a soul is to evolve. And often it is through difficulty. Not always, but often it is. I was thinking I told Tammy about this quote, that Rumi quote, where it says that the wound is where the light comes in. And so I resonate with that. So belonging is the other thing too, you were saying. I think that we all have trauma and we all want to belong. We all want to feel loved because at the end of the day, we are love, in my opinion. We are all love. That is the truest essence of who we are. And so love to me is home. That's home frequency. That's where I feel my safest, my most okay. So seeking love was really me trying to seek home in a planet that didn't feel like home to me. I'm very intuitive and I will get super out there with you, but for the purposes of being succinct here, I just feel like my soul came here to learn a lot, but this part of my journey is finding home here in a place that can feel very chaotic and disturbing and not safe, is realizing that when I'm with my soul, with myself, I am home, I am love, I am safe. That's what I'm made of. I feel like we all came from this energy, this source. And I saw it in a meditation one time when I was asking about it, and it was like we're all, how snowflakes are all individual. Well, we're all these individual puzzle pieces that we were pulled out of this big pillar of light, and so we're unique in our puzzle piece to have our experience. But when we leave this planet, when we're done, we go right back to the source and we fit right back into that pillar of light. That's where we all came from. That's love. And
Mm.
so finding love for me was feeling that home frequency, being in that pillar again and feeling okay. And I think for me, it took becoming a mother to really like drop into that journey. I think I was really looking everywhere when I was younger and I didn't understand, but having my daughter is what really put my feet on the ground and started me on this path of who am I and what is love to me and who am I as love?
The
Have you
overarching connection. Go ahead.
No, please, Tammy, go ahead.
I was going to say the overarching connection for all of us is love, and that's when we're fractured is also a connection, which is that we all split off parts of ourselves because of experiences, because of having this human experience and living in a world that is difficult, that can be traumatic. So we split those off, and the journey and the overarching connection is love, is what you're saying, and the journey back home to love, to wholeness. To speak a little bit what you were saying earlier about the light, the wound is where the light comes through. We were talking about, Lori and I, before hopping on with you today, Karina, about the burden being the opportunity, and in some way that's the calling.
Mm.
And what will we do with that calling?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I have so many things to. I think we could share for quite a long time. There's lots to pull out from that. When you were in your forest, like what did you do you find resonance with coming out of your forest and, finding your way to the pond and looking at the person? Did you find resonance in seeing you as a older, wiser self? And if so, like what drew you to begin to find the light?
I think I saw first before the woman, I saw my child. And that's what I see in my daughter. She was the catalyst to coming home, to being courageous enough to walk through the forest that I was running away from. So looking in her eyes was this direct reflection of looking in my eyes. She has my same eye color. She is so much like me, and that also it coincides with that question you had asked, to reflect on, of who was I before the world told me who I should be. And I look at my daughter, and that's who I was. She is the essence of who I was, because she is magical and curious and playful and innocent and brilliant and full of light, and just she shimmers, and radiance is who she is. And it's because I protect that. My husband and I protect that. That is so important. No one protected that for us. And we are very intentional about making sure that we keep her safe and protected and allow her to be exactly who God, universe, source made her to be. And so she's the inspiration for me to have started to look at this. So those eyes, to go back to your question, I saw my inner child. I saw what she needed. I saw how broken, how devastated, how lonely, how just heartbroken, truly heartbroken she was. And I realized I never want to see that kind of heartbrokenness in my daughter's eyes. So I will do whatever it takes to show up for my child and give her what she needs, which was really just giving myself and all those parts what they needed to come home, so that now I do see the reflection of my woman. I do see her. So it took time. It wasn't immediate. So now when I look in the pond, I see her, but I also see the reflection of my inner child right next to us, watching us, being like, wow, we grew up to be that. That's who we are now. And me holding her and saying, yes, we're all one. This is who we are. This is who we grew up to be. And something I also noticed in my experience is that through journeying, because I'm very intuitive and very clairvoyant, in my therapy sessions with Tammy, it was very shamanic. And I told her when I brought her on, like, into my world, I waited for her for a year, and then the universe said it was time because I was busy. So I was on her wait list, and it all opened up the way it was supposed to. But I told her, I know you're the one. I know that I can get super wooey, super weird with you, and it's not going to put you off. You're not going to say that I need to be put somewhere. Like, and she's like, bring it on. Let's go there.
Absolutely.
And so
All
I
of
was
it.
able to share with her these journeys of what I was witnessing, what I was seeing. And what I realized is that when I was younger, that inner child, she would always hear this voice, like, in the worst of moments, like, keep going, don't give up, keep going, you're not alone. And I never understood that, because there were so many dark moments where honestly I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted it to be over. I couldn't handle it anymore. And I realized now that that voice was me. That voice was me reconnecting with those parts, outside of time and space, telling her, you can do this. Keep going. I've got you. And so that's, so thank you for coming with me on that little journey to answer your question.
That's really beautiful because, love finds its way even to the hardest of hearts, I think, because we can't isolate, like, as you're saying, that if we're coming from a source, then there's this piece of that source within us, even if we have a really hard heart, or life has, not served us things that we don't feel we deserve. And I always believe life is working for you. And now that you say this is so interesting, because when I was 17, I had a waking vision. I was washing dishes at my work, and I saw myself at this age. And I saw myself doing this work. There was no podcast at that time. And I walked into this big building, and there was all these words on doors. And the word probiotic was on one of the doors. And I was like, what's that? And in this vision. And what happened is that that higher part of me, that light part of me called my name in the middle of this dark, terrifying, like you say, where the day I went into that forest, I said to myself, anything is better than what just happened to me.
Yeah.
I will go into that forest. But the beauty is with, just to add to what you said, the beauty is that love is like water. It finds its way, and it can take the form of a ray of sun. It can take the form of a moment in that dark space that confirms a belief or a sense of belonging or something that you need. And I just find that so incredibly powerful. It's quite amazing. Tammy, do you resonate with the light finding its way and the light and the love being there always in the background?
I do resonate with a knowing, and for me it was as a young child that things were confusing and didn't make sense to me, and the words when I was little come to me like, but why, and it was the injustice of what I saw in the church. It was the injustice of what I saw in my house, and it didn't make sense, and it was definitely a pulling to love. I have surrounded myself, tattooed my grandmother's writing on my arm. It says love as reminders of that. I can now name it. And so um for me, the light wasn't a visual. It was a feeling inside that something's off here, because I know better than what's happening around me. And um, there was a pull to find out, to find the truth. And ultimately, I didn't know it at the time, it was really to find the thread of love.
Wow.
Hmm.
I know better than what's happening around me. That's what you just said.
I
I
totally
know better
resonate
than
with
what's
that.
happening around me. There was a knowing of that this isn't right. It can't really be, because that's not, I don't know, the words that are coming to me now is like, that's not how things are. I get that that's how things are in an
Yeah.
injustice kind of 3D way, and what's happening in the world. But to my childlike eyes, I guess it was more childlike heart. I knew better. I knew better than what the adults were doing around me.
So tell me then, your forest, what was your forest?
My forest, and continues to be to some extent, although most of it's parked out and sunny right now. But my forest began in the home that I grew up in, as a daughter of an alcoholic father and a very codependent mother. And there was some violence, and there was some verbal violence as well, and a real lack of safety, and an profound emotional neglect. I wouldn't have been able to name that up until a few years ago.
Mm.
And so I took on all of that as, there's something wrong with me. I'm not lovable. I'm not enough. And those were the wet blankets I lived under.
Mm.
Um, it's interesting. Yes, the wet blankets I lived under that literally, quite literally, snuffed out my light. Um, and I always had a pull to leave. It looked like California. It looked like, all of these fantasies. And I didn't know that leaving didn't require going anywhere. Um,
Right. Leaving
yeah.
required going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, Karina, I think about this and Tammy, as you said that, you said, not lovable, not enough. And I just thought I was the only one.
Mhm. No,
Right?
you
Like,
are not
I
alone.
thought I was the only one. I'm like,
I did too. I'm with you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's
right,
very
like,
isolating this to believe that about yourself. I agree. I thought so too.
yeah, like, and that's what's so beautiful about this, and why I just feel so uh blessed. Like, I think when we're done with the podcast for the day, I'll just fall on the floor in a heap and start sobbing, because there's something about the journey, um having been raised in the church, super dysfunctional family, high highs, low low, having been sexually assaulted numerous times by different people. um I was in survival mode my whole life, and I was raised to believe I was stupid.
Mhm.
And I just didn't believe. It was told to me, you aren't enough. And I think for all of us, what we're looking at here is, these are the bones. These are the bones of our stories. And we get to call back the blood, the muscle, the tissue onto those bones. And we get to speak to that and to say, no, I'm lovable. I'm enough. Even though we don't know each other. Well, the two of you know each other, but not maybe like in this incredible depth way, but you know enough that you've walked some journey with one another. We all have a desire for safety, belonging, being loved, being enough. And here we are.
Here we are. And I think a big piece of it too, Lori, is that intergenerational piece.
Yeah.
As I was listening to you in this moment, I just heard, I'm going back to burdens, like the burdens that were placed on us from our parents that they got from their parents and so forth. I mean, I know my parents didn't know any better. I know that they weren't withholding anything they didn't they had within themselves. I know that. I just didn't know that what I was carrying for the most part wasn't mine, that it didn't all belong to me.
Right.
And I know, just to add to that a little bit, to be able to look into your eyes and to Karina's eyes and say, we have walked this path. And I wish my 9-year-old knew that. I wish my 9-year-old could have reached out to Karina, could have reached out to you, Lori, and said, I'm feeling this way. And we could have been together in that forest feeling
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Being like, what is wrong with this place? Let's have a tea party.
Let's go
I want to go to your
let's go
cottage, Karina.
Karina's cottage.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll bring the flowers from my garden.
Yes,
I'll bring a
yes.
waterfall.
You'll bring the waterfall. I think that's
Yeah.
really interesting, because the intergenerational piece, um, my mom is in my life, my father's not. And um and my mom and I have had a lot of time to talk about, you know, the honesty. And bless her, she's 75 this year, and she has chosen to step up to the plate and to be honest. And my heart towards her is love. She's my mother. And what I was so um understanding about this last, I'd say, few months, is she has her own pain, and she has her own forest, and she didn't know what I know now. Information wasn't given to her. It's not the excuse, but for many of us, our parents had the same pain that we're talking about. They just weren't able to share it. Alcoholic families, maybe their parents were abused, or an abuser. Maybe they, were told that they weren't going to amount to anything. Maybe, like, we all have this context that we get to bring together, but it's a cumulative voice that allows us to say it out loud, and to speak to that which was placed on them, that was placed on their mothers, their fathers, and the people before them, and them, and them. It's just, we're just being told how to live.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I love that. Karina, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a revolutionary act of self-love to say, this ends with me.
Yes,
Oh,
bravo. Bravo.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Can you say it again?
It's a revolutionary act of self-love to say, this ends with me.
Oh.
Because we have to give ourselves the grace and the credit that that forest of horrors is not all of our making. We're walking the echoes and the monsters, they're not all ours. We're hearing the echoes and the monsters of generations past who didn't have the space, the safety, the love, the support, or even the access to the kind of information we have now to be able to walk through that forest. And so a lot of my journey as well has been realizing that my parents are individual people with their own force, with their own trauma, and forgiving them, that has taken time, but what's helped is by meeting these parts of myself, being there for myself and showing up for myself, giving myself that level of grace and compassion is what made it available to give them that level of grace and compassion, even if they should never walk their own forests, even if they cannot do it. That's their journey, that's their soul, that's their evolution. And who am I to judge how they're doing it or whether they are or not? That's their experience. And yeah, so it's been about focusing on taking care of myself, loving myself, giving myself what I needed. And that's what's helped me heal compassion and grace for my parents and allow them to have a role in my life, pertaining mostly to my daughter. But knowing that if they have value of love to give to her, that's enough for me.
Mm.
It really starts, not to, reiterate something that's been said for generations, it really does start with you. We cannot give grace, we cannot love until we love ourselves, until we have compassion and empathy for ourselves. It really will flow through us when we're able to give that to ourselves. It really starts with ourselves.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
Mhm.
would.
Mhm.
For me, this piece of forgiveness and you know, uh, when Tammy and I were chatting before, Tammy, brought out the opportunity inside of the burden, and she said, "Is that maybe going ahead?" And I said, "No, because we all need to know where we're going. We need to have that waypoint to know, hey, this is where you can get to if you're feeling this way." And I would add this here about forgiveness because I I I I'll I just want to talk about it for a second because it was part of the forest for me where, Karina, like you say, the high highs, the low lows. I lived in chaos my whole life. And when I left my house and I found my own space and I did start living for me, it was as I was looking for chaos because it was like a cortisol hit. I thought life was just a bunch of chaos. I didn't understand what stability was. And it was recently when I realized that I was normalizing this chaos in my life. I was normalizing really, everything. There was always a problem. There was always a judgment. There was always a this, or there was always a that. And it was just untethering myself from that and realizing that I can normalize stability. And that takes a lot more energy to move into a place of stability when I lived for 32 years in a space of chaos. And so before I move to the forgiveness piece, I just wanted to let's just talk about that because I think for those people out there who are hearing this incredible conversation where we're coming to our stories to one another. And like I said earlier, the bones of what has made us and shaped us. And we are adding life and flesh and rebuilding something that was stripped away. And so, how for each of you did the chaos unfold, and how did you move toward a stability for yourself. So who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, you go.
I absolutely resonate with everything you said. That's exactly how I thought life was. And that's also why I had that voice that Tammy was saying earlier, where it was like, this cannot be. This doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
How is it like this?
Yeah.
But eventually that voice gets quieter and quieter because the chaos is so loud that that's just what becomes your baseline. And so I absolutely resonate with that. For me, I was taken on a very physical journey where that chaos manifested in dis-ease in my body. And it manifested into Lyme disease and mold and EBV and things that, Lyme in and of itself is a pathogen. It's a bacteria. It's an invader. So it really, if you think about it, it really represented the energetics of what I was growing up in, with all this energy invading my space and making me not feel safe. And so then now I have to deal with it on a physical level. And that was my wake up call, my bell ringing of saying, enough is enough. I cannot continue to accept this level of chaos in my own home. This is the home of my soul. I cannot have this anymore. And so it was a long journey of a few years of a lot of detoxing is really what Lyme disease is it, to heal it is detoxifying body, mind, heart, spirit, all avenues. But what I was really detoxifying energetically and emotionally was this chaos of
Yeah.
saying, I'm done with this. This is my home. And I claim the sovereignty of my own home and my stability and my sense of safety. And I will have this chaos no longer. And so it was a very personal experience because I can't explain, I can't even put it into words how confronting it is for someone who feels unsafe in this world to feel so unsafe in their own body with the level of dis-ease that I experienced. But it also taught me in ways that I don't know what else could have, to stand so strongly as I do now, and how I protect my body, my energy, my heart, my mind. All of those things are so important to me now. And I have no availability for things that are taking away from that. Yeah,
Right.
either they're adding value or I am just not available for it. And so that's been my journey, experiencing that and coming home to what stability, safety, tranquility, peace is to me.
Do you feel that within this instability or chaos, I always felt like I was being hunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I felt like because I was in survivor mode, I could not have a proper bowel movement. I slept
Yeah.
for the first time in my entire life for the first time uh through the night. Um 18 years ago. And I'm 50 this year. I could not find the off button to the being hunted. Something's coming towards me all the time, day and night. I better be ready. And that was really part of the chaos. So for those of who are listening, who feel that way, we are here. We are all here. We are here, and we are here for you. We are here to support you and to give you some tools and just even the power of our words to let you know that we feel this too. You're not alone. As I said earlier, I felt like I was the only one and everybody's shaking their heads, and it's like, no, you're not, and you aren't the only one.
No.
So
Yeah. That feeling of being hunted, what I kept hearing is powerless.
yeah,
I
Mhm.
felt powerless
yeah.
in my life, in my body, in my thoughts. I felt completely powerless. So having to rewrite that script,
Oh,
tiny baby step by tiny baby step. It's painstaking, but it's possible.
Yes.
yes.
It's painstaking, but it's possible.
Oh, very good. Tammy, what about you?
My journey was quite messy, I would say. I I did things to sabotage my own life because I did not feel good enough. I made poor choices when it came to boys and men, and I made poor choices educationally. I failed and I failed again, and always I have to say, um, what what pulled me again was that what you were saying was light, and I was saying this unfairness, this I know something different, I know something better is out there. And that pull also was to do what I do. I knew that from a very young age. And it's not a job, it's not a career, it's absolutely a calling. And I didn't realize in that journey of what I do in the world and finding my way there, that somehow, surprise, surprise, I ended up right out of graduate school working in trauma, and specifically trauma healing. And then, oh, surprise, surprise, I end up working with folks in addiction recovery. And I turn around, I look back at my career, and oh, that's exactly what I needed. And my pull to journey with others and help others, I found myself. And I was so driven at a young age to give whatever I could to others, to help them know that there was hope, to throw them a lifeline when they were drowning, that in my desire and drive to do that, I found ways to help myself too. I found the path for myself.
So
I
I would
always say, yeah.
like to ask, how did you find the path to yourself then? What was it? So if somebody can resonate with this right now, and Karina, I'm going to ask you the same question. Like wh- we're talking a lot about our younger selves, and it's
Mhm,
because I have a somatic therapist who works with me. She's helped me find my younger self, and I know exactly the moment where I went, "Oh, this is
mhm.
real. This is actually real." Um,
Yes.
and so this will inspire others to find this work for themselves as well. But if you could just touch on and take your time,
Mhm.
how did you find yourself?
A lot of trial and error. I mean, for me, I have to say, and I mentioned this in my TED talk, that I was so frustrated by talk therapy that, I could sit here and talk to you about finding self and what self is as if it's an idea, but you just said so beautifully, it is real. This isn't an idea of self. This isn't, these aren't thoughts of these different parts in the forest. It actually exists. Um, and so going back to what you just said, that that frustration for me led to more somatic work. My frustration and wanting to help clients of like, this isn't working, what's going to work? It's the holistic approach of really bringing in body, somatics, and spirit into the room, and treating the whole holistic individual, not just the body and the brain and the thoughts I see in front of me. Because for me, I could understand the patterns. They made a lot of sense, and fuck, nothing was changing. It was so frustrating. And I was seeing the same thing in my clients. So I kept at it until I really figured out the magic sauce for me. And I've seen the transformation in others. I know it works.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I've seen the magic in me. I know it works. We're all
Mhm,
of us are here because we have seen the magic and we know it works.
mhm.
Um, Karina, what how did you meet your younger self?
Like Tammy, is trial and error. I think that's life. So life is a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, Not and resilience, because the trial and error, but resilience is the key to continuing on the path and not
Mhm.
quitting when you fall on your face and that thing you thought was going to work didn't.
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
I think one of the first turning points I had was back in around 2020, when I started to tap into my intuitive abilities, that was one big defining piece of finding myself and realizing that I was different, but that's okay, that I wasn't the only one, that these sensitivities in me were who I am and not something that made me wrong, because the environment that I grew up in didn't protect them or encourage them. It was seen as kind of weird, and just the world and the city that I live in, it's not something that's openly spoken. So, I I had a seizure in 2019, and I broke my arm, my humeral head, and I had massive open shoulder surgery. And so I couldn't use the tools that I was normally using to deal with anxiety or depression. I couldn't hit the gym like I used to. And so I had to find something else to do. And so I had always had, meditation circling around because I liked yoga, and I couldn't really do yoga because I couldn't use my arm. And so then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to meditate now. What the hell else do? I thought. And luckily, coincidentally, the world shut down around that time too. And meditation studios that I had been interested in that were hours away from me all of a sudden were online. And I could jump on a Zoom and I could be a part of meditations and things that I had always wanted to try. And so that is what began this journey. I sat in an Akashic Records class, and at the time I had no idea what that was. And the woman leading it asked each one of us to ask her a question, and I had no idea what the hell this meant or what I was supposed to ask. And so I just said, what's in my highest good to know? And she said, and I'll never forget, the voices that you're hearing, the messages you're receiving, and your meditations are real. You're intuitive. It's time to start working with those gifts. It's time to start allowing that in. And I had at that time, I had told no one that this was happening, that I was meditating and I was hearing these channeled messages that were profound, that were not me specifically, but I thought I was losing my mind. So I didn't tell anybody this. So that also made it that much more real of, oh my gosh, there's something here. And so that began me on my journey of developing my psychic abilities. And that started to bring me home. And that gave me this door opening, because also in these kind of new age psychic development, you are talking in some places about inner child healing and about parts of yourself. And so that opened the door for that avenue. So I started to do things like writing letters to people who hurt me, and writing letters from my inner child, and starting to let that voice have a space. And so I did a lot of that work, but I described this to my husband. I felt like before I met Tammy, I had all these papers I had written, school, all these unfinished papers, and I didn't know how to finish them or how to integrate them or what to do with them. And so when I started the work with Tammy, being able to do the somatics, the IFS stuff, the EMDR, blending all of these things, looking at it holistically, then I got to finish the papers and integrate them as a whole, and then notice where they're all connected and the core of them. And so that's the journey of, to me, how I've really found self energy and anchored it in an integrated way that lives within me now on a day-to-day basis.
Self energy that lives within you on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, because if we're talking about living in a space where there's chaos, you're not in yourself. You're not able to be grounded, or we're talking about the fact that we all have the threads, the through lines of not being good enough, not feeling safe. We have all these through lines. There's no sense of self. Everybody's telling you how and who you are supposed to be. So, what secret have you kept from yourself um, as you find your forest, and as you're finding these parts of yourself in the forest? Mine, when I was sharing with Tammy, I was like, well, you know, I I had to give my power away. Part of my chaos journey part of being received and having a positive reinforcement from my toxic environment was that I had to give my power away. And the biggest dog in the room won, and I had to give my power away to them because it was, if I didn't, the consequence was really severe. And so where were like the secret of what you knew you thought was then, but now kind of like that. What is that for both of you? Karina, you can go first.
Yeah, it was my need for safety because of living on eggshells
Yeah.
meant that I always put others first before myself.
Yeah.
And in order to find peace and safety for myself, I thought I had to make sure they were okay. So I just gave and gave and gave because I naively and falsely thought that if they're okay, then I can finally be okay. But the problem is that I was never okay then. I gave all of me to everyone around me. And then at the end, I was left with nothing for myself and no peace and no safety and no love because I gave it
Yeah. And then you're probably just exhausted,
completely,
and then
burned out.
burned out to the core, adrenal failure, like the body just and it shows up in these weird, like, for me it was just this, it was pneumonia. Like I just my lungs had no capacity to breathe. It was I had pneumonia for 5 months. I could not shake it. And my body was like, I'm going to tell you a little secret, Lori. We're taking you out so that you are going to have to get this message. And the body spoke to you, Karina, through Lyme disease and to me, through pneumonia. But it was because the power, I never understood the way I've shown my own kids how to stand in your power, and your no is no, your yes is yes.
Yeah. Boundaries. I wasn't taught boundaries.
Oh no, those
Boundaries are
smart.
my best friend now, but I did not have them before.
Well, and if we did have a boundary, and I'm sure, Tammy, this is something that you can relate to as well. If we had a boundary, it it depended on what it was, how you said it, and at any given point, it didn't matter the boundary anyway, because
I was just going to say it doesn't matter. Doesn't
No,
matter.
no, it didn't. Yeah, we didn't, and that sense of powerlessness made it impossible to really claim it. It wasn't allowed. It wasn't available to us then. And getting as sick as I did was revisiting that in my adulthood and claiming it in this adult voice and saying no to toxic environments and toxic people and people who are not going to help me heal, who are setting me back. That gave me the inner strength that I needed to say no because I lacked the ability to do that beforehand.
Yes.
Yeah. Tammy, can you resonate? Does this resonate with you?
Yes, absolutely. And the things that we don't know, you had asked before about, what's a secret we keep from ourselves. And as it relates to what you were just saying, Karina, I think the biggest secret I kept from myself is that I have everything I need inside of me, always looking to the outside for the validation or the enoughness, or they know better than me and all of that. And
Hmm.
so I was going to say, wish I could go back and let her know that she has everything she needs inside her, but she knows that already. She knows that now.
When did you go back? When did you go back and let her know?
Mm, I mean, I think it's a returning again and again, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes I still trip on the not good enough. And I might struggle with it for a day or two before I realize, oh, right, I can check in with her and remind her and have that connection. And then there's relief from it. So, so I think maybe the initial contact, perhaps in my 20s or 30s, I don't remember the exact moment, and it wasn't all at once either. It was a little bit at a time. All at once would have scared her off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. All at once would have scared her off for me as well.
Mhm.
Like, and it's really interesting how we gaslight ourselves. Hey, like we talk ourselves out. We gaslight ourselves out of all kinds of goodness and
I think it's that ability to receive. I think we
yeah.
struggle with receiving when we didn't before. So it's so foreign. It's scary.
Mhm. Vulnerable.
Yeah.
Lori and I were talking earlier in the previous episode about receiving is a very vulnerable place.
Yeah.
You're really
Yeah.
being seen. Hmm.
Yeah.
It's
It was terrifying for me in the beginning.
oh
Hmm.
yeah, me too. It still is. I was saying, Karina, like my forest is we were saying in the past episode that when I was sharing, I said, like there's so much in my forest still. And I was dealing with all these other parts of like you said, I walked on eggshells. My brother and I would say it was the way the keys landed in the bowl, or it was the way the door opened. And most people think, what? A door opening was your moment? Oh, yeah. It was the way the door opened was equal to knock on the wall. And we pretended we were busy until they went, somewhere else. And then we went outside. And then when we could, we would just drive. We didn't learn in school because we were busy trying to live and to make it through the day. And I was, I don't know how I passed high school because, I didn't learn and I couldn't retain. Eh, but it was because I lived I had all these pieces. So I have everything that I can hear from you, Karina, and then my own, all this other baggage of the sexual assault. It was overwhelming. I was drowning and there wasn't a lot of people there.
No, and when you're in survival mode, you can't. You literally don't have access to your higher order thinking. You're in fight or flight.
Yeah.
You're in lizard brain practically, and there's no access to your higher order thinking for sure. Yeah.
Did you feel that, Karina, lizard brain for yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I still deal with that and from
Mm.
time to time. I'm still healing those aspects of myself that, when I have a ailment come up in my physical body that is bringing up PTSD and I have these thoughts that start to, oh my God, are we back there again? Oh no, it feels just like it used to. Are we actually healed? Are we going to be okay? I can still send myself into those places and I have to take the time to backtrack and touch in with self energy, have a conversation with my husband, like let him in to those places. That was a lot of work for me to let him in to those dark spaces that I thought, oh my God, if I let him in, he'll never see me the same again. I can't be lovable in these dark places. That was so challenging for me. And it's still, and friendships I'm learning to let other women in those places. And I still guard some of the darker spaces I know of myself. That's part of my forest. I'm still learning to navigate that I can share pieces of myself. Or sometimes I try and I realize maybe that person can't hold me there, but it isn't because something's wrong with me. They just can't hold themselves there yet. And that's okay. So like learning the difference there and being proud of myself for being vulnerable anyways. But yeah, that has been a big part of my journey is because I did so much by myself. I did it on my own. I didn't let anybody in because I thought, my God, if it's this horrifying to me, who the hell wants to come in here with me? And having to realize that there are people that love you enough that they will bring the flashlight in for you and just sit with you.
Beautiful. Wow. I love that. I I hear that. And I think for me, I always believe people are going to hurt me and beginning to unwind that because I was, I was 6 when I was just enjoying my life. I was just enjoying my life. And from one moment to the next. And the moment was, um, afterwards, I remember thinking, well, she must not be lovable. Like that joyful, creative, beautiful child must not be lovable. Because if something like this could happen to someone like that, then we better not ever look at her again.
No. Yeah.
It's so,
And what do you know to be true now?
oh, I know that the truth is I was her all along,
Mhm.
that she was creative, divine, feminine, masculine. She was funny, courageous, bold, spiritual. She was loyal, and she understood what it was like to be in stillness. She was calm and peace. And I know that. And that was the moment where, later on in my life where I went, when I heard that quote, "Who were you before the world told you who you should be?" I was like, I know that. I know who I am.
Mhm.
I think that's a really important question where I, through all of this trauma, I actually knew who I was. I just couldn't find her
Right.
because I was in the dark. And still am in the dark in many ways, but
Mhm.
joyfully now, because now I can celebrate. Okay, this is my forest. Yeah, like if there's something out there that led me back to home,
Mhm.
then it will keep leading me.
Yes.
It will
Yes.
keep. It's faithful.
Yeah.
Karina, when you began with the light and that we're puzzles pieces, and we go, and then when we come back in, that is it. The
Mhm.
light is the light in the darkness. It is the sun. It is the thing that can save us.
Yes.
Because it
Keep
is
returning
us
home.
and it never
Mhm.
left us.
Yes. Yes.
We are it.
Yes.
Mm. Oh, this is just full of joy. I'm so joyful. Yay, yay, yay. So Karina, if you could leave um our listeners with something, what would that be?
To remember that you are not just human, you're a soul. And that means you're infinite, that
Mm.
nothing is impossible. You are the light, you are the love, you are the healing that you seek. It is all there. Like Tammy said, it's within you. It's just a matter of saying to yourself, to the universe, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to let the light in. I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to remember who I truly am. And that is enough. It's an invitation for all of the energies that support us to bring us, one moment at a time, one conversation, one book, one resource at a time to that goal that you set out loud, that you're cultivating, that you're asking to magnetize towards you.
Wow. Yes. I always pause long after you speak because I'm just taking it all in. It's beautiful. Tammy, is there something that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I want to either remind them or tell them for the first time that they have everything they need inside of them.
Mhm.
And if they're not sure what that means or where to find it, to find the guides that can help them.
Hmm. This is so beautiful. It's so true. For me, I want to leave with something that you said, Karina, which is it's a revolutionary act of self-love to say it ends with me. And that's what a cycle breaker is. That's what a And if you don't feel you're a cycle breaker, that's okay, because it can end with you. If that cycle breaker is too big of a weight, the opportunity is within the burden. The opportunity is that we can find the thread of love. The opportunity is that we can find our pieces fragmented and, you know, build all over our forest if we want. And we can go in and out. There's no, like, you don't ever have to leave it. It's learning about yourself. And that's where the magic is. This is a magical journey of self-exploration, and we get to be a part of one another's stories. And that's my thing is, you know, for years I always saw, like, you know, when my grandmother would cook turkey for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then she'd save the one of the, wishbones, and it was this dried little bone. And I think about that. That's what comes to mind when I think about where I gave my power away, all these things, all this chaos and the normalizing is just like the dry bone. There's nothing. There was something and now there's nothing. It's just stripped away. But I am calling that back to life.
Yeah.
I'm calling it back, and I'm calling it for me, and I'm opening the space to call it for the world. We can call this back. We can breathe life into that bone. We can make it alive again. And what are we waiting for?
Yes, Lori, yes.
Yes.
The time is now, sister.
Time is now.
Yes.
And it is almost time for us to move to this next part where Dr. Lara Barbier is coming on. She's going to share with the three of us about her story, and she'll join into this conversation. And that is going to be a beautiful part of this story, this journey, this beautiful conversation. This is such a privilege. And so we'll meet back in a few minutes to invite her into this space and to hear about her forest and the secrets she keeps from herself. And maybe there'll be more things that'll come to our minds, and that will be another beautiful layer of this conversation. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your honesty and your beautiful parts of yourselves that you've both shared. It's just such a privilege. So thank you so much.
Thank you both. It is an honor to share the space with both of you.
I agree. I agree. This is such a heart-filling conversation. Like there's so much life force energy in this space. I feel like I'm buzzing with it, and it's fun. I just love this. I live for this. I'm very Gemini. I live for this.
Oh, it's a good thing I didn't pour that other cup of coffee I was going to pour.
Funny.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation. And I just want to say special thanks to Karina and Tammy. Thank you so much for your honesty and your bravery and your presence. It is courageous to have a conversation like this, and I really appreciate it. And if you, as the listener, want to learn more about today's guest, you can visit my website, loriclarkemedia.com, and find all the details under Shame Out Loud Part 3. And if this conversation opened something for you, the Curious Writing Companions are available at loriclarkemedia.com. Each one follows a series and offers gentle prompts and reflections for you if you're looking to go deeper. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you will join us for Part 4 of the Shame Out Loud series. Till next time.